Hello, this is Postdoc Chronicles week number 69. I'm gonna make this quick because I'm really hungry. I'm still gonna eat my lunch. But anyway, before we proceed to the Postdoc proper, I'm gonna feature here the game known as Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, a remake of a very old Game Boy game from 1993. So this was released like I believe late last month, and yeah, it's really very good. So personally, I went into the Zelda franchise. My very first entry was actually the Legend of Zelda Minish Cap on my favorite console ever, which is the Game Boy Advance. And from there, I went to all the original Zelda on NES, Zelda 2, and then the Zeldas on Game Boy, including this one, Link's Awakening, and then Oracle of Ages, Oracles of Seasons, and then Link to the Past, and then Link Between Worlds. So I noticed that when the Zelda on the 3DS came out as the remake of Ocarina of Time from Nintendo 64, so Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, and then eventually Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask. I found myself wanting Zelda games, or preferring Zelda games that were top down. So currently the Zelda games have been divided into two parts. So you have this open world, big 3D Zelda games like Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, or the very famous Breath of the Wild on the release of the Nintendo Switch. So I kind of prefer the former, the top down, and again, it's because I was introduced to it first on Minish Cap. But basically, yeah, this game right here is actually a remake of the 2D top down Zelda, Link's Awakening on the original Game Boy. This is not a Game Boy. This is a GPI case, which I got late last week. If you're interested, I've got an unboxing of it in another video. But basically, this is a Game Boy shaped container for Raspberry Pi Zero W. So basically, a Raspberry Pi Zero W. It's like its brain, and then it emulates games. So I have like cards of Link's Awakening DX, Oracle of Season, Oracle of Ages back in the Philippines. Of course, I didn't bring it with me, but yeah. So this came out originally in 1993, and then in 1998 it was remade on the Game Boy Color, okay, as The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening DX. So this game right here, and then eventually many years later we got it 2019 for the Nintendo Switch. And yeah, this is a very very weird Zelda game. It's almost sorts like a very dreamlike. You wake up, you got stranded in an island, and then you wake up. Zelda is not there. Instead, you have like Marin and Tarin and stuff, and then you got like cameos from Super Mario. You have like the springy dog from Super Mario. You have enemies like Goombas and stuff like that. So it's very weird. And then yeah, it's not unlike Legend of Zelda 2. It also has this sort of like platforming stages. And so personally, the reason why I also prefer top down Zelda instead of like the open world sprawling Zeldas like Breath of the Wild is I found their puzzles to be more ingenious, to be more harder than the 3D games. Of course, for example, Ocarina of Time, I played that, and the puzzles were still good, but you compare like Ocarina of Time to something like Link to the Past. I think Link to the Past is still better. So the Zelda really love their time mechanics in like so we saw this in like Oracle of Ages, and then Link to the Past, and then Ocarina of Time. They kind of sort of not recycled because there are like different elements. But yeah, the very first time I saw that was when I played the Link to the Past, where you have like a timeline, and then you go to another timeline and then affect the a different timeline with what you do in some other timeline. So they also use that in Ocarina of Time. But yeah, I still prefer the 2D ones. Like I said, it's because of the conditioning, because the very first Zelda game that I played is the Minish Cap, and I basically associated Zelda games with those things, and much so that I owned, the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on the Switch. I've owned it for like more than a year now. I have the cart. Never touched it. I still haven't touched it. I still haven't got around playing it. But this one, the moment this came to my Switch, Link's Awakening, I've been playing this instead. So I think I'm gonna be able to finish this first before I even touch Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. And like I said, because I prefer top down Zelda, very condensed Zelda experience, as opposed to this over open world stuff. But of course, these open world things like Ocarina of Time, I played it. They're still very marvelous. They're still very magnificently made. But yeah, it's just a personal preference. But anyway, yeah, that's it for the games right here. So if you want to check them out, you can either get them on the like virtual console on the 3DS, but the original one. But if you want the more the more recent HD remake. If you have a Switch, there's no reason to go back to these older titles. So but yeah, it's the first time. I never, when I was growing up, I didn't know that it's gonna get a remake. So the first time I experienced it was on these games. But anyway, these are the Zelda games. And again, if you're interested with the GPI case, I've got an unboxing. In honor of I got this because 2019 is like the 30th anniversary of the Game Boy. It was released in 1989, and I want something to commemorate it. That's why I got the GPI case. So I had an extensive unboxing of this one if you want to check it out. But anyway, let's go now to Postdoc Chronicles. So last week I did extensively root tutorial. Also I believe late last week or going like Friday before the weekend last week, Deepak, launched his book in experimental particle physics. Like I said before, I read the whole book. I made some comments, and yeah, it's really very nice. Like when I saw the event, the South Africans are really proud of it because it's like I believe the first or one of the first books published by an author that is in a South African institution. So they were really very proud. I am very happy to Deepak. I'm still gonna, because right now there are still a lot of things that I've already read but still have not digested internally. So every now and then I keep on referring back to Deepak's book. But anyway, speaking of Deepak, so like I said, he's sending me to CERN end of the month, and for the Atlas membership induction and also software tutorial. So he asked me to check out tutorials on root because people would when we do the tutorial there, I believe it will focus on this thing called Athena, and I think they will already expect that at least some things about root. So I've used root before because my collaborator Subhadip in Finland, when we were doing some detector simulations, I had to use because from what I remember, Delphi is sort of like produces these root files, and then you analyze it using root. So I was able to use it, but very bare minimum. I don't consider myself an expert. So what I'm doing right now is, Deepak gave me his lectures on his experimental physics courses. So this lecture notes is basically what eventually turned out to be the content of his book. But anyway, he gave me some tutorials regarding root, and then after that, after I made Deepak's tutorial, because the one he gave me focuses on plotting and stuff, and I'm reading a lot of tutorials right now. But basically, what root is like a framework for high energy physicists to it's like all the tools that you need is can be found in the within the root framework. So plotting stuff, analyzing hepmc files, and then looping over the contents of these events and of the data and stuff like that, producing very nice graphs, very nice histograms. Everything is found within the root framework. So it's sort of like you can read like macros written in C or C++. I believe it can also interface with things written in Python and something like that. But yeah, basically when you read like the root guidelines, their explanation of what a root framework is very similar to like if you're a high energy physicist and you want to get into the field, and then you want to play around with the data and stuff like that. So it would be hard if there is no existing framework, because it will be like you'll still be studying how to plot things using another program, and then you'll be studying how to write some macros using another program. So they sort of like collated this into one huge framework. So that the analogy that they have that I really love is, imagine it's like living in a city. So root framework is like that. So if you live in a city, you work in a city, you don't have to worry yourself about having water supply or electricity or something like that, because everything has been laid out for you. You just tap into them. So you just tap into the electricity, into the water. So root is like that. So you just call existing plotting programs, you just call existing looping programs that goes into the trees and stuff like that. But as opposed to, for example, if you live in the rural area and then you live in the mountains, a secluded area, where you not only would you worry about making your house, you have to worry about how to produce your electricity, you have to worry about how to produce your water, stuff like that. So that analogy right there is similar to not having a root framework. So that's why it's very advisable, especially if you want to go into experimental particle physics, even in phenomenology, to be familiar with root. So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm learning like how to plot stuff in root, how to write my own macros to do things that I want, like plot things with error bars, very nice scatter plots, and then looping over. So the one I'm studying right now is the T browser thing. So you have this root file that contains information about your events, so how to loop within them, how to access their leaves and stuff like that, how to access their end tuples, the for example the form momentum associated with a specific object like a jet, for example, and stuff like that. So that's what I'm studying right now. And because the what they call this, the conference is already upcoming, and I'm prioritizing that over this other thing that we're doing with Subhadip, where I still also need to study boosted decision tree. So he sent me like a tutorial that he also read. It's where he learned from. So initially, he was not an expert in BDT, but he was able to implement it using a tutorial. So he sent me one. I still haven't read it because, like I said, I'm focusing on this root tutorial. So speaking of which, so last Monday, I also processed my visa for Switzerland. I still haven't heard from them yet. So hopefully I can make it because, like I said in my previous Postdoc Chronicles, the PAC said it can be done within 3 5 days, but the embassy, they said they need at least 10 working days, to process this, and to process it. And I counted, I have like exactly 10. So hopefully they don't, consume the entire bare minimum of 10 days before they release my visa. Hopefully early next week I hear from them, and then get my visa. But anyway, that's it for my Postdoc Chronicles week number 69. I'm gonna eat my lunch now, and I'll see you next time in Postdoc Chronicles week number 70. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.